Tonight, the province unveils a new Back to Basics math curriculum.
This is the first new elementary school math curriculum in 15 years.
For students, it will mean classes that also include financial literacy and coding. Plus,
we thought we'd had a couple extra days, but that's okay. We'll be ready to open tomorrow.
Toronto patios get ready to welcome back customers as we enter stage 2 at midnight. And the school board said these high school teachers couldn't hold a parade for their graduates. They held one anyway. Good evening, I'm Mike Wise. The province is adding a new math curriculum to Ontario elementary schools. It fulfills a campaign promise to take away many of the ways the subject is currently being taught. But despite the pandemic, the new curriculum will roll out in September. Our Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley has that story.
In Ontario's education system, math is the problem child. Different governments have tried different changes. This time, it's back to basics.
This is the first new elementary school math curriculum in 15 years. It's clear that a lot has changed since 2005, and our children's education needs to change with it.
Over the past decade, setting aside the year when exams were cancelled over a labour dispute, the percentage of grade 3 students meeting the provincial standard in math has steadily declined. Among grade 6 students, only half met the standard for the last 4 years running.
This curriculum was developed by some of the brightest minds in the province. Its development was supported by leading-edge research and advice from academics, from math education experts, from job creators, industry, nonprofit leaders, and of course you, our parents.
Students will be expected to memorize basic addition and subtraction and their times tables. There's a new emphasis on mental math, adding and subtracting in your head. Financial literacy will be taught in all grades, and coding is introduced in grade 1.
Do I think it's important to teach basics? Yes. Do I think mental math is important? Absolutely. Do I think math facts are important? Of course. But we cannot go backwards. We must go forwards, and we need a new approach to teach kids.
Even though COVID-19 has kept Ontario schools shut since March, the new math curriculum will launch in September.
I would argue from a competitive landscape, we must take action immediately to improve math scores. We were given a mandate by the people of this province to go back to basics, bring a math curriculum that actually reflects the priorities of the job market.
No doubt that's something that needs to be addressed. But to do that in the middle of a pandemic without even consulting educators and education workers, teachers in our province it's just unbelievable.
Teachers will be offered training on the new curriculum over the summer. For teachers who decline, the government says recorded webinars will be available in the fall. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
The province has fired the Peel District School Board's Director of Education amid mounting allegations of anti-black racism and other forms of discrimination within the board. Peter Joshua has been removed from his position. Stephen Lecce saying today it is clear the board requires some changes. And health officials are reporting a small spike in COVID-19 numbers today. 216 new cases of COVID-19 are being reported in Ontario. The province had reported fewer than 200 new daily cases in 8 of the last 10 days. Officials are also reporting the first COVID-19 linked death in a patient under 20 years old. Toronto Public Health says she's actually a young girl who's under the age of 9, but add even though she died with the disease, her death wasn't a result of the disease. Well, tomorrow will be a big day as patios in Toronto get ready to open their doors again. Today, many were making last-minute preparations. The beach story, we'll get to that story in a little bit, coming at many of the things reopening as well. We can also tell you that in Mississauga, they're also looking forward to reopening that, in that city as well. The mayor saying it's about time.
This decision is also reflective of the significant progress we've made as a region over the past 3 months. We are in a good position here in Mississauga. Cases have stabilized, and we're on the tail end of the curve with only 14 new cases reported yesterday.
Stage 2 also means some amenities in Mississauga will be open to the public soon. Basketball courts and sports fields will be available starting Friday. Now, the waiting pool in Celebration Square will open a week this Saturday. And Square One Shopping Mall announced it will open at 11 tomorrow morning with social distancing and enhanced cleaning measures in place. Well, we are learning of new allegations of abuse tonight at the Camilla Care home in Mississauga. Now, since the pandemic began, nearly 70 residents there have died from COVID-19. Police were already investigating allegations of abuse. Now that the province has taken over the home, they're looking at more cases. Ali Chiasson has the latest.
Since the hospital network Trillium Health took over Camilla Care, more allegations of abuse and neglect have surfaced, 11 more. According to this leaked memo sent to families, that brings the total to 16 residents impacted. And they've placed implicated staff on leave, including 5 from Camilla Care, 1 employee from Trillium Health, and 1 agency employee. They haven't said exactly what the complaints are, but it has to do with neglect and mistreatment of residents.
We need a totally independent inquiry that takes a look at the entire sector.
The president of the union representing service employees in healthcare says what's allegedly happening at one home could allegedly be happening at others.
This has not just been something that we woke up to, in February when COVID hit our country.
We're hearing just horrible stories.
People from across the province have started talking about what's happened to their loved ones while in long-term care.
Left in dirty briefs overnight because the previous shift thought the next shift would do it. Bed sores that go through to the bone.
Innes Ingram's mother lives at Camilla Care. Last month, he held a hunger strike. He's encouraged now that Peel police are looking into abuse allegations and says this to the people out there.
You're not alone. There's a lot of families going through the same stuff that you are.
The SEIU wants families and staff to keep reporting their concerns.
So now it's, I hope, not only a reckoning, but an awakening that we all commit to do better for seniors in our lives and in Ontario.
Sienna Senior Living, the company that owns Camilla Care, has hired a former Deputy Attorney General of Ontario to do a company-wide review. When asked about these recent allegations, they said they are deeply troubled. Trillium Health is asking that people come forward if they have any similar complaints or concerns over their loved ones. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Mississauga.
Dozens of people marched to Queen's Park this morning to protest the potential bill that could see the province protect long-term care homes from being responsible for the health of their residents.
We want justice! We want justice!
The group is hoping to show the province that they are against any government protection for long-term care homes. The province is looking at offering protection to organizations and people, including healthcare providers, from civil lawsuits that result from the pandemic, if the operators can prove they acted in good faith. Now, family and friends who have lost loved ones showed up at the rally today, calling out the names of family members and friends they lost. They say they deserve the right to seek justice.
Things need to change and people need to stop sweeping this under the carpet. The ministry inspects, they dismiss, they do their reports, they throw it on Google, then you can read all about these people being cited, but there's no consequences. You commit a crime, you get charged. There is no accountability.
The government said it is considering protection for private long-term care homes, but it hasn't introduced any legislation yet. Well, the drunk driver who killed a cyclist back in 2015 has been charged with impaired driving yet again. 27-year-old Daria Selinovic struck and killed 44-year-old cyclist Ji Yong Kang 5 years ago. She served a 4.5-year prison sentence. The OPP pulled Selinovic over Sunday night on Highway 400 near King Road after multiple callers reported a vehicle driving erratically. Police determined she was driving with a blood alcohol level over twice the legal limit. She was also allegedly driving with a suspended license. Now, protests continued in Malton today, where Ijaz Chowdhury died Saturday. The schizophrenic man was shot by police after his family say they called for mental health assistance. Ontario's police watchdog is investigating. Meanwhile, the Canadian Centre for Mental Health is calling for reforms on how these types of calls are handled. Talia Ricci explains.
News of another mental health crisis ending in tragedy is deeply unsettling for doctors like David Greatzer.
We don't think police should be the first responders. They shouldn't have to shoulder that burden. We believe that people trained in mental health should ultimately be the people who respond to mental health crises.
Canada's largest mental health hospital is voicing its support for a change, saying our system should look at successful international models where people in crisis are first met by mental health responders, as well as investing more in community mental health support.
In mental health crises, people can get hurt, and obviously we do see disproportionately many of them coming from racialized communities. Mental health professionals deal with agitated patients frequently, and they understand that certain techniques can be highly successful.
In January, Peel Police launched a mobile crisis response team. It's made up of 2 teams with 2 members each, a crisis support worker and a specially trained police officer. They're deployed every day.
Here in Toronto, there are 10 mobile crisis intervention teams made up of a police officer and a crisis nurse. They're also deployed daily, usually for 10-hour shifts. But these teams are not considered first responders.
It took decades to get to where we have those teams.
Former Toronto Police Board members say the conversation about shifting who responds first goes back decades.
And so it's time to admit that no matter what is in the hand of that person in crisis, whether it's suspected or you can visibly see it, if it's not a gun, then surely you have time to employ the use of mental health professionals to get the best outcome.
What I'm not happy about is that the teams are not 24/7 and that they are not the first responders. That's where we hit a roadblock.
In a statement, the Toronto Police Services Board says it's open to exploring other models that may include services delivered by mental health experts without police. Dr. Greatzer hopes this national conversation does end in change.
They do understand how to deal with these things because that's their job.
Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Let's go back now to things opening up in Toronto. Tomorrow will be a big day as patios in Toronto get ready to open the doors again. Today, many were making last-minute preparations.
Your patio license is cut in half. So we were licensed for 50, it's now 25. However, the tables have to be 6 feet apart. So we can meet capacity, but that depends on if we have 6 or 4 bodies at every table. So that will, determine our sales.
At this pub in the beach, staff are busy getting ready. Besides having their beer kegs up and running and the bars stocked, the pub will also have disposable menus. And if you want a touchless experience, you can access a menu through a QR code. Customers will also have the option of providing personal details that can be used for contact tracing if necessary. Contact tracing. Well, this is supposed to be graduation week at schools around the GTA, and it was shaping up to be an extra disappointing one for the graduating class at Mark Garneau Collegiate in East York. Not only was their ceremony canceled, the school board wouldn't support a plan by teachers to hold a grad parade through the neighborhood. But as Kelda Yoon tells us, they still went ahead with the idea.
We've got everybody here ready to go!
A little bit rainy, but the spirits were high.
It's gonna be crazy!
As Erin Carey and her colleagues at Mark Garneau Collegiate,
these are all of your teachers over here,
got ready to give the graduating class a well-deserved send-off. The teachers drove through the neighborhoods of Thorncliffe and Flemington as students and their families waved from above.
Holy, is that Sam? Is that Sam? Oh my God.
To be honest, it's really good. They really needed this.
Graduate Azizo Chowdhury helped to design the sign he's holding, placed outside all the buildings where a graduate lives.
So I was out on my balcony. I was also watching her live stream on Facebook, and all my friends were watching it too. It was really fun. We were all talking about it, and we were all taking videos from our own balconies and sending it to each other because we're all all over this place.
The idea came to Karen Herder when she saw that other teachers she knew were giving a send-off to students on their porches.
I knew that we couldn't do that in our neighborhood because so many of our kids are living in high-rises. And I thought if we drive through and raise a lot of noise, which we're pretty good at, then we could honor our students.
The parade almost didn't happen because the TDSB wouldn't sign off on it, so the teachers went ahead on their own, with Toronto Police leading the way.
Graduates, if you're out there, congratulations.
Teacher Paul Hillman said it was important to not only celebrate the graduates, but to bring the community together at a time when they need it most. 2 weeks ago, a former student, Maz Joyat, was shot and killed.
For the community, it just said, wow, this is a community. Everybody cares. Let's celebrate it. There's been a little bit of heartache in the last little bit in these two communities.
It's something that we're going to definitely remember forever.
Kelda Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, still to come, she was in hospital for almost a month recovering from COVID-19. We'll introduce you to 103-year-old Rose Weinstock, who is now happy, healthy, and back home. That's after the break. Well, this next story is the kind of success story we just love to tell. 103-year-old Rose Weinstock gave her family quite the scare when she got COVID-19 at Mackenzie Health Hospital in Richmond Hill earlier this month. But we can tell you tonight, Rose is completely recovered and back home.
Ma, what was it like having COVID?
I didn't like it.
You didn't like it?
What's it like?
What does it feel like to be home now?
Oh, I'm happy, very happy to be home.
Oh, sure she is. Rose was initially sent to hospital after she fell and hit her head. Now, she'd been living at Sunrise of Thornhill Retirement Community and was given the all clear for her head injury. But days later, she tested positive for COVID-19. Now, she couldn't return home to Sunrise because that facility was dealing with an outbreak of its own and was in lockdown. So she was confined to the COVID ward at the hospital. Rose's family says she did well there and was a favorite patient among the staff. Amazing resilience at 103 years old. Congratulations, Rose. Well, Pearson Airport showing off what is being done to help travelers and staff keep safe during the COVID-19 era. The airport says in order to safely welcome back passengers, it is stepping up the disinfecting of high-touch areas using robots, as you see that, for cleaning the floors, to a passenger disinfection corridor where you can get spritzed with a saline mist. Pearson says the entire experience, from the bathrooms to check-in security and parking machines, are now touchless.
This was always a very clean airport, but we've taken it up 3 or 4 factors. So we've deployed technology. We talked about the robots. We have fogging machines. We have SWAT teams that go around to intercept, high-touch areas, constant wipe down of areas people touch every single day. The implementation of social distancing, so you see the decals on the floor to have that 6 feet apart. The mandatory of masks. Everybody you see here today has a mask.
Now, Pearson will only be allowing passengers and workers in the airport. The pandemic has seen the normally busy facility fall eerily quiet, with passenger traffic down 90% from the same time last year. Time to check on the weather forecast with meteorologist Colette Kennedy. And a big change in the weather today, Colette.
Yeah, we're really seeing things change. I mean, we've had such dry conditions, hot conditions, humid conditions, and most of those components have changed. We're still a little bit sticky out there, but even that is changing now as that cold front has worked its way through. So we'll find those dew points coming down as well, and you're going to feel it more so into Wednesday as it becomes more comfortable. Now, still a few isolated showers. We do have that potential into Wednesday, but we'll get into some better clearing into the afternoon hours and more sunshine coming out. And temperatures are going to generally be seasonal for a couple of days, and then they'll start to come up again as we go towards, well, I say the weekend, but even towards Friday, they'll start to come up. So you can kind of see what happened with the daytime highs into central parts of the province there. That's into that cooler sector as the front had passed, and they were even beginning to come down, of course, as it was going through and working its way through not just southwestern Ontario, but through the GTA too. But see how over towards the nation's capital and into southern Quebec, still those readings there with some of the heat in place, but the temperatures still towards 30 or into even the low 30s. So behind the front, some active weather. Yes, we certainly saw that earlier today. There were some thunderstorms, even some warnings that we had in place, mostly kind of towards cottage country, so to the north of the GTA or to the south of us into the Niagara region, and sandwiched in between we got some of just the wet conditions, which we need some of that rainfall, but we still have some instability, so a little bit of wet weather kind of here and there through the overnight, and even tomorrow morning a lot of that cloud cover kind of hanging in through midday. It'll be breaking up, but we see that more into the afternoon, so an isolated shower with some of that sun coming through could actually enhance the risk of that, but there's not going to be much. It's going to get better into the afternoon. It's going to feel good too, because as our temperatures warm up, 23, 24 for our highs through southern and eastern Ontario, it's going to feel like 23, 24 degrees. We're not going to see those humidex values up there into the low 30s, all right? So really feeling better. Into Thursday, I do want to mention that, especially looking along the northern shores of Lake Erie, later into the day, we do have a chance of seeing some wet conditions coming back in once again. So just know about that. Those are your temperatures overnight tonight into southwestern Ontario. A look tomorrow at your winds coming in from the west and some cooler readings that you'll see there. Tonight through Toronto, 15 degrees, the overnight sleeping temperature, which is very comfortable. Highs tomorrow looking pretty good there too. No humidex to worry about into Thursday again. We could see even some showers here, but more so that's going to be south into the southwest. Into Friday, there's that heat coming back at us. The humidity will be in there a little bit too. And just checking out the weekend, if you do want to know for making plans, Mike, it looks like the wetter day of the two is going to be Saturday.
Okay, thanks a lot, Colette.
You're welcome.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
With Toronto now moving to stage 2 of reopening plans, we'll soon see some of the city's largest cultural centres welcoming visitors once again. The Art Gallery of Ontario is reopening its doors starting July 2nd, at first just for members, then later in July for the general public. It's holding over many of its special exhibits as well. And the Aga Khan Museum is opening its doors starting this weekend, offering free admission for the next month.
We also want people to sort of restore, museum and cultures and the arts back into their lives, because I think that's something people are craving.
Now, both art galleries are asking visitors to pre-book their visits so they can stagger admission times to help maintain social distancing. The Aga Khan Museum is also asking visitors to wear masks. And the African penguins at the Toronto Zoo look like they're eager to welcome back visitors. The zoo is reopening for members starting this weekend, again, asking them to book in advance so they can control crowd sizes. Masks are recommended but not required. Also opening this weekend, Ripley's Aquarium and Casa Loma. That's our show for you tonight. Thanks for watching. I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Good night.